Chapter 16 Revelations. After those words, Orpal fell to his knees. His world was crumbling beneath his feet. All he knew, all he had planned and dreamed about, had disappeared in the space of a single word. Disowned. It meant that he was dishonorably banished from his own family, leaving him with nothing he could call his own. He had just become a nameless and penniless orphan. When the parents of the other boys arrived, things escalated quickly. Seeing their boys broken and unconscious in a foreign house, stinking of their own feces and urine, they demanded an explanation. They were all long-time friends, so it was easy for Raz to make them calm down enough to have a civil conversation. "You," Raz ordered the nameless one, "explain what you did." Despite still being shocked, he was already angry enough to return to his old self. "If I must go down, I'll bring them all with me. We'll share the same destiny, so I won't be alone. I refuse to be the only one to pay for this," he thought. The nameless one confessed that he had always hated his brother, and how he had planned to teach him discipline and respect with the help of his friends. When he had finished, everyone in the room was appalled, refusing to believe those words. They had always known Orpal as a good and kind young man. "Lith, can you tell us what happened here exactly?" Lith acted like he was reluctant to leave his mother's embrace. However, after a dramatic pause, he stepped forward. He made sure to emphasize his wounds by limping and holding his left arm. He winced with pain at every step. "As you all know, my family has a lot of expenses, and my sister is ill. Since I am quite talented in core magic, Tsalia pays me to clean her house. I give the money to my parents, to help them make ends meet." I have carefully picked the words for this speech, Lith thought. If they don't feel pity and compassion for a beaten-up 5-year-old after this sob story, these guys are full-blown psychos, Lith thought. "Today Miss Celia is out of town. I was alone in here when your son suddenly barged in and started beating me." He held out his arms, turning around to let them see how battered he was. "I tried to defend myself as my dad taught me, but they were too big and strong." Lith started sobbing again. "I had to use magic to defend myself. I was so scared. I really thought I was going to die." He returned to Alina's embrace, weeping non-stop. "Poor kid," said Broman, Riesel's father, picking up the wooden stick from his son's hand. "This piece of trash even dared to use his grandfather's only memento." "Lina, Justin, Lith, I offer you my most sincere apologies. I have failed as a man and as a father to raise such a snake in the grass. Whatever your decision is, I will comply without questions. But first," Broman splashed Riesel's face with a bucket of dirty water to bring him back to consciousness. He needed to hear the truth from his own son. He still could not fully believe his own eyes. "Dad, what are you doing here?" Riesel held his throbbing chin when he suddenly recalled what had happened. All the eyes were on him, including Lith's. The same cold eyes that glowed with blue energy, right before he would unleash a bolt of lightning. "I asked the questions. Young man, if you don't want another beating, or worse, you'd better tell the truth. What in the gods' names were you all doing here?" Terrified by both his father and his tormentor, Riesel could only speak the truth, one after the other. The 4 remaining boys were woken up and forced to tell the whole story. One of them tried to expose Lith's torture, but his father made him shut up with a strong slap in the face. 5 against a little kid, and you have the gall to blame him for going all out. Our families have been friends from generations. Your actions dishonored us all. When we get back home, I will show you what real torture is." "What a moron," Lith inwardly laughed. "Their credibility is less than 0. They can tell whatever they want. It will only appear like the pathetic excuse of a criminal caught red-handed." "Raz, what do you want us to do?" Broman asked. "I am going to disown Orpal, and then report all of them for attempted murder. I won't ask anything from you. We all know how hard it is being a parent, especially in moments like this. I just wanted you to hear it from me before I go to the village chief. I will not disown my son. Not yet, at least," Broman said. "But I can promise you that I will do nothing to defend him in any way from the consequences of his actions. And when he gets back home, I will make sure that he will never have the opportunity to harm your family again." They all went to Lutia, where the village chief listened to the 6 boys' confessions before pronouncing the sentence. After hearing all the facts and testimony, "I hereby sentence the 6 of you to 4 hours at pillory, where you will be shaved of all your hair and whipped 10 times for your crimes. After that, You will spend 3 days in jail to reconsider your actions. Any objections? All those present shook their heads. I have a question, Lith said. For me, or for the prisoners? Young man? For them. Can I ask them? But of course. Ask them whatever you want. Lith nodded and moved in front of Rizal. Did Tryon know? Of course he did, Orpal screamed. He has always stood by my side. Unlike you. Leech. Lith ignored him. Did he? No. Rizal looked at Orpal with eyes filled with disgust. We planned everything when we were alone. Orpal said that he didn't trust Tryon enough. That Tryon is a spineless coward, and that he feared that he would rat us out. Thanks. Yeah. Lith then spoke to the village chief again. Could you please reduce his sentence? His sincerity helps my whole family. It clears our doubts and my brother's name as well. But of course, if the victim asks for mercy, how could I possibly refuse? Rizal will only receive 5 lashes, and after the pillory time has passed, his family is free to bring him home. Is that okay with you? Lith nodded, and Broman shook Lith's hand while his wife was weeping with joy. Thanks. Lith, that means a lot for my poor Lisa. I will not forget your kindness. I'm sure you'll become a great man, just like your father. Lith was completely satisfied with that outcome. I didn't know that disowning a son, especially the firstborn, was possible. Everything went even better than I imagined. Orpal's friends can't wait to get some alone time in jail with him. And once his sentence is over, he is doomed. Either someone from the village adopts him, something that I find hard to believe, or he will be deported to the nearest orphanage. I hope to get rid of Tryon too. But maybe that's for the best. I don't think my parents can bear losing 2 sons at once. Between their happiness and getting even with that idiot, they come first by a landslide, Lith thought. The following days were really hard for Raz, Lena, and Tryon. The couple needed quite some time before overcoming their grief. It was really hard for them to accept that the kind and bright boy that they brought up for almost 12 years was gone forever. Even worse, they started to suspect that the Orpal they knew never really existed. Thinking back about all the bad things he did and said over the years, he might as well have been deceiving them all along. Tryon was the one having the hardest time. He had lost his favorite sibling and his family's trust at the same time. Despite Rizal having cleared his name, the suspicions remain. How could he have been so close to Orpal and yet never notice anything? I can't blame them. In their shoes, I would think of me as either a liar or a complete idiot. Tryon didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Lith, Raina, and Tista, instead, were having the time of their lives. Even if they did their best to avoid their parents from noticing, they would get more and better food, clothes, and they didn't have to tolerate Orpal's mean words, nor his petty jokes anymore. Plus, there were all the gifts that the 5 families sent them as an apology. Both the girls had stopped considering Orpal as a brother from the day he had made the proposal to get rid of Tista, calling her a cripple. Lith, however, had never considered Orpal as a brother. His only worry was for his parents, so he tried to lessen their burden as much as he could. Lith's magic was now strong enough that he could till and plough the fields with earth magic. He could also hunt for much bigger prey. His aim was now set on deer, boars, and bear, all of whose pelt could be sold for more than a pretty penny. The time for the spring festival was nearing, and Lith wanted some extra pocket money to buy something nice for his parents and sisters. Tryon was still a stranger to him. The spring festival was held mid-spring, during the equinox, to celebrate the time when the light finally overcame the darkness and cold of winter. Lith was happily playing around the Trawnwoods, looking for the best opportunity to kill a huge boar. Damn it. Its neck and skin are too thick to break with my current level of spirit magic. Fire and thunder could easily put it down, but that would mean damaging either the pelt or the meat. I need to get creative. The boar's movements were easy to predict, since it would always charge in a straight line, thanks to air fusion. Lith's body was fast enough to dodge the charges with ease, as long as he managed to prevent the beast from coming too close. When an ox went mad, my father told me that the best way to put it down is to strike at the legs, instead of the head. Once you take away their mobility, beasts like this one are easy prey. Jut the next charge. Lith conjured a thick layer of ice before dodging. When the boar stepped on the ice, it lost its footing and spun like a top. The boar crashed against the huge oak Lith had aligned it with Pelly, its bones snapping on impact. Lith closed in enough to not miss his next shot, but always keeping a safe distance. Cornered prey is the most dangerous prey. Always respect the prey. Never underestimate it. It only needs one hit to kill you. Lith remembered Celia's teachings. Lith made a finger gun, aligning it with his target before shooting an ice arrow that penetrated through the boar's right eye, puncturing its brain. The beast collapsed to the ground, but Lith shot another arrow in the left eye too, just to be on the safe side. Okay, it's dead. Now the problem is, how the heck do I carry it out of the woods? My spirit magic may not be enough to carry a several 100 kilograms dead animal all the way back to Celia's house. Even if I actually manage to do it, how can I explain it? Lith was nervously tapping with a finger on a nearby tree, trying to think of a solution before he had to fight to defend his game, when the dead animal suddenly disappeared. What the hell? Since when do boars vanish into thin air? Who's there? He promptly activated life vision, scanning the surroundings in search of his enemy. But the only living beings he could find were small birds and rodents. Okay, this is getting creepy. But I need to get my boar back. The boar appeared back on the ground, very close to Lith, making him jump away in fright. Why are you messing with me? Who are you? Lith screamed while checking out the best escape route. An invisible enemy could easily kill me. Screw the boar. I need to get out of here fast, he thought. There is no need to escape, a gentle feminine voice replied in his mind. I'm not your enemy, my host. Okay, if you want to scare me to death. You're doing a great job. What do you mean by host? Where the heck are you? Lith kept looking around. The enemy somehow was untraceable, even by his magical senses. Tap looking around. Host. I'm where you put me. Around your neck. Lith instinctively grabbed the pouch and threw it away. He could finally see that both the life force and the mana flow of the stone were bigger than ever. Lith had always kept it in a blind spot, and, since it was useless, he forgot to check it with life vision since the day of the ambush. Okay, I hate riddles. Tell me who or what you are. I'll leave. As much as it pains me to lose such a game, it's not worth having a creepy, mysterious stone talking in my head 24s. Please, don't. The voice turned desperate. I'll die without my host. Enough with the riddles, Lith said. What the heck are you? Our minds are linked. It's easier to show rather than tell. Suddenly Lith's mind was filled with images and memories that were not his own. He could have thought he had been teleported away, if the images weren't full of holes, allowing him to still see part of the woods through them. I'm sorry, but my powers are almost depleted. This is the best I can do. Lith could see a gigantic tower, whose vault was so deep it could reach the bottom of the ocean. Its top so high, it looked like it could touch the sky. He could perceive that the whole structure was a giant magical artifact, pulsing with mana. 90 at some point. The owner of the tower had died, and without their mana to nourish its core, the tower began to decline. Centuries passed, while the tower kept looking for a next host, using illusions to send away those it deemed not talented enough or unworthy. Over time, the tower spent all its powers, and to avoid death it had been forced to self-sacrifice. To prolong its existence, it started to consume its own walls, floors, everything within itself, even its memories. More centuries had passed. Now only the tower core was left, barely the size of a pebble. It had nothing left, except for its sense of self. Preferring death over becoming a mindless tool, the tower core attempted a desperate gamble. It sent a signal that any being with the bare minimum of magical power to sustain its life could perceive. The clock was ticking, every second that passed. The tower core could feel its life slip away. When the first one to answer its call turned out to be a Rai, the tower core had tried to communicate with the beast, but to no avail. The beast's mind was too different from the first host, making the mind link impossible. Hope was lost. The tower core could only wait for its end. But then a savior arrived, rescuing the tower core from the beast's maw. He even used his own blood to bond himself with the tower core, right before it fell into a deep slumber to recover from its wounds. The images disappeared, leaving Lith alone with the pouch and the dead boar. Lith's mind was overwhelmed, incapable of any thought outside stupid jokes. Does that make us married, or what? Chapter 17. The stone, Ser, real worth. Why do you say that? The feminine voice asked. Well, back on my world, being bonded for life with someone you would not have any intimacy with was the joke definition of marriage. That's funny. The voice chuckled. And also kind of sad. Never mind the jokes. Let me get this straight. You were once a mighty Articate, full of treasures and knowledge. Now everything you had and knew is lost. Plus, you are diminished to the size of a marble. Am I missing something? No, all your statements are correct. You also didn't pick me because of my talent or virtue, solely because I possess, and I quote, the bare minimum magical powers to sustain your life. That makes me nothing more than an off-brand life support system. That is not exactly right. I am now bonded with you until your death do us part. That sounds more and more like marriage. Lith grunted. I am no parasite. You can see me as a symbiote. We will both benefit from our relationship. How? Are you saying that if you manage to get your strength back, you will also recover your memories and magical artifacts? No, those are lost forever. I'm just like you. When you grow up, can you spit the food you have eaten in the past, back up to pass it on to someone else? No, the same applies to me. Then what's in it for me? The pleasure of your company? At the moment, all I can offer you is a pocket dimension. Say what? One moment, I'm looking at your memories to make it easier to understand. It works like a dungeons and looting's bag of keeping. That's interesting. Lith pondered. An interdimensional space where I can store my stuff without being hindered by its weight. How big is this pocket dimension? 10 cubic meters big. It can store anything that amounts up to such a volume, no matter the weight, as long as it's something inanimate. A cruel intuition flashed in Lith's eyes. Can it also store things like lightning, fireballs, or incoming arrows? If so, it would be an invaluable tool for both offense and defense. No. The voice killed Lith's hopes. The pocket dimension is outside space and time, so it rejects both life and kinetic energy. Feeling its host, disappointment, the voice quickly added, this also means that whatever you store will not rot, cool down, or warm up. A roasted blinker would be kept hot and tasty, frozen at the moment you finished cooking it. That barely qualifies as a silver lining. Despite how long their chat seemed to take, it was only happening inside their minds. Barely a second had passed after Lith had access to the stone's memories. Whatever. At least you saved me from my current predicament. Dano, I know how to bring the boar back. I just need a decent excuse to explain how I managed it. The stone mind shrugged. Keep it simple. Drop it at the edge of the woods and tell Celia that you managed to kite it to that spot before killing it. It should be easier to believe that the truth. Lith nodded, resourceful and smart. The fact that our minds are linked still creeps me out, but thanks to that, I can see you have no malice or hidden agenda towards me. If you really are what you say to be, I'll keep you. True loyalty is too rare of a commodity to turn it down when you find it. So until I am convinced of your good faith, consider yourself on probation. Lith put the pouch back around his neck and the boar in the pocket dimension. By the way, I can't keep calling you and Stone. Don't you have a name? No. The voice sounded really sad. It's lost, like everything else. Don't be a pouter. A name is just a name. You can call me Derek, Lith, Host, CZ, Delta, whatever. I'll always be the same cynic, misanthropic, lying, cutthroat guy I have always been. Would you like me to name you? Yes, please. Lith had a name ready since he heard the Tower Core's story. You are supposed to be a great Attic, so I'll name you after the greatest, albeit fictional, magical Forgemaster that I always admired when I was a kid. Solus. Thank you, Lith. I like how it sounds. I really appreciate that you named me after someone you loved, rather than give me a pet name, like Happy or Lucky. Lith had the odd feeling Solus was mind-blushing. They spent the whole time on the way back chatting. Lith was really interested in understanding the limits and uses of his new partner's skill set. After assessing that both Lith and Solus could activate the pocket dimension, he proceeded to pick the right spot. It needed to be close enough to the edge of the woods and covered enough to make spotting the boar from a distance impossible. There are countless things that can go wrong, leaving a dead animal alone, even for a few minutes. A passerby, who claims it's his kill, a scavenger, believing it had lucked out finding a free meal. Take your pick. With my luck, I never trust the odds. You trust no one. Solus's voice changed to a flat tone. You bet. That's life rule number 1. Rule number 2 is no good deed goes unpunished. Lith then used earth and wind magic to mess up the surroundings, mimicking the signs of struggle left by his previous fight with the boar. Bah! All this effort, and I get such a sloppy result. If Celia throws a second glance at this scene, she'll expose my lie. I can only hope the prize catches her eyes enough to not ask any questions. He then gently dropped the pouch on the ground. As soon as you receive my signal, take the boar out of the pocket dimension. I'll be back in a jiffy. Without waiting for a reply, Lith started running at full speed towards Celia's house. Once out of their mind link range, 10 meters, 10.9 yards. Lith could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Damn it, leaving her like that was a dick move. She surely knows the real reasons why I did it. It's hard to accept someone else in your head, reading every single one of your most embarrassing thoughts and memories. Not to mention that in D&L every sentient artifact was usually a bag full of troubles, trying to mind control the owner or something. I know that it's just fiction, but still. What if I just stumbled into this world's lone ring, like in Vasily Bulkian's books? Lith shrugged his head, his body covered in cold sweat. I bet that as soon as we are back together, she will have access to this inner monologue too. Oh my life. No pain, no gain. If she really is what she says, she's worth the risk. At least I'll have someone who finally knows the real me. A few minutes later, Celia and Lith were approaching the drop spot, riding the 2-horse cart she used to move the heaviest goods around. Is it really so big that it requires 2 horses? She asked. I think one should be enough to move it once it's loaded. The second is necessary to drag it onto the cart easily. Once Lith and Celia jumped down from their ride, he gave Solus the signal. Celia detached the horses, guiding them by the bridle. Lith took the thick ropes necessary to make a harness for the boar with him, making it easy for the horses to drag it out of the woods and into the cart. When Celia saw the game with her own eyes, she whistled with approval. Good gods, this thing must be around 300 kilograms, 661 pounds. You weren't boasting as usual. I never boast. Lith used spirit magic to stealthily recover the pouch, while Celia was engrossed in sizing the beast up. Please, all men do. Celia clicked her tongue. You are not an exception. With all your magic and secrets, do you want me to believe you do not enjoy your short, dark, and toothless act? She added, laughing out loud. It's not my fault. I have a lisp now. Lith was pissed off by her non-stop mockery of his new voice. Will you ever let me hear the end of it? I'm sorry. I really am. It's just that your tough boy attitude is even more hilarious now that you have a lisp. The first time she had heard him call her Philia, she had laughed hard enough to fall from her chair, hugging her belly. Judging from its size, it was really close to becoming a magical beast. We could have sold it for a much bigger sum. It's kind of sad. She sighed. Yeah, and if it was a magical beast, I would be much deader now. Lith rebuked. They kept bickering until the boar was safe and sound on the cart. Only once they got back to her house and started bleeding the game, did Celia get her business attitude back. The most valuable piece is the head. If we can find a noble, willing to stuff it, hang it over his fireplace, and take the credit for the kill, the pelt and the meat are nothing special. Do you have any plans for them? Lith nodded. All this meat will allow me to skip hunting for a while, so I prefer to keep and maturate it. As for the pelt, it should make a nice carpet for my parents' bedroom. Always a family boy, huh? Celia ruffled his hair. This time, there was no mockery in her voice. I'm so proud of you being so considerate toward your family that I'll tan it for free. I still get half of the head price, though. Perfect. Lith said. Good. Our best shot is with Count Lark himself. He is both loaded and very proud of his hunting skills. I must reach out to my contacts in his manor to test the waters. Fingers crossed. Lith suffered at the idea of losing so much money, but half was better than nothing. He didn't know how to tan pelts or stuff heads and lacked both the time and the instruments to do it. Even if he did, he had no way to sell the merchandise outside of his little village. After Lith left Celia, he and Solus started chatting again, feigning ignorance about each other's feelings. Solus, I think that your help will be invaluable to help bring my martial arts training to the next level. Chapter 18, Heart to Heart. Until that moment, Lith's martial training had been really sloppy, despite all his efforts. In a whole year of practice, he had barely managed to regain the skill level of a 4th Q of Jiu-Jitsu, the equivalent of an orange belt for karate. The only aspects he had managed to step up to the 3rd Q, the equivalent of a green belt for karate, were the footwork and the full techniques. Even that had been possible only because the initial progression depended completely on him. Without a sparring partner, someone that could watch his moves and help him correct his mistakes, there was only so much that he could do. He could either make a mud dummy move or train himself. He was not at the point that he could do both at the same time. Making a rough mud doll perform human-like movements required a lot of concentration. That meant that he could only put the dummies in position and then practice, while they were once again still. Lith's body was even clumsier than his original one back on Earth. To make real progress, he needed to be hit, to be thrown around, and to practice all his moves on a moving target. Yet Lith couldn't ask for help from anyone. How could he possibly explain that he wanted to practice alien martial arts? What help could anyone give him? Not even knowing the basics of the basics. That's why he usually practiced in the middle of the night. Solus was the perfect solution for his problem. After further merging their minds, they had discovered new uses for the tower core. Lith had just had to plant her into a mud doll to turn it into a quasi-golem. Finally, getting his sparring partner, Solus had all the human senses, and more. Ren. As long as she had Lith's permission, she could consume his mana to perform spells he knew in his stead. Her nature was that of a magic tower. She was supposed to oversee countless floors and devices. Even in her weakened state, moving a poor excuse of a mud golem was as easy as pie. Solus further improved Lith's idea, managing to make the golem's body soften at the right times, before hitting him or being hit. This way, she was able to put enough strain on Lith's body to train it, and avoid any possible injury by accident. She also had access to all his memories, including all of his master's teachings. Solus was able to use those memories to correct Lith's mistakes and help him improve by leaps and bounds, thanks to invigoration. Lith was now able to stay awake for a whole month before his performance started to decline and forced him to rest, thanks to Solus. Whenever he would meet a bottleneck, he would train martial arts. He only needed to take a short break when the fatigue became too much. Light magic would mend his muscles, making them recover and grow stronger in a matter of minutes, dissipating the accumulated lactic acid at the same time. During those moments, Lith and Solus would chat heart to heart. Jester, what do you plan to do in the future? Why do you put so much effort into all this training? Magic, martial arts, hunting. Why don't you stop from time to time, just to smell the roses? Solus asked. Whenever I take a break, start thinking about the future. That scares me to death, Segs. I already know that death is a trap that forces me to switch one hell with another. We don't want to live all my life in a small village. Just the idea is equivalent to the death penalty, doing the same routine every day. A prison without bars where I am forced to lie every single day. Waiting to die and start all over again. One can't bear this thought. My plan is to test this body's limits, get as strong as I can, so that once I reach adulthood, we'll be able to explore this world. Raiden. If either this body or this world meet my expectation, would strive all my life to find a way to prevent me from passing into another world after my death. How? Solus asked. Well, I don't know. I'm still as ignorant as a baby about magic. All I know is its practical use. I have no idea if it's possible to create magical artifacts. If my hypothesis is right, I could become a lich. Even better, I could find a way to bind my soul to this world, so that in case of death, I would remain here, possessing the nearest available corpse. I hope that when push comes to the shove, we'll also have found a way to retain both my mana core and muscle memory. Lith thought. And what if both the world and your body fail you? Well, would not mind starting my journey once again. If I have to live a shitty life in a shitty world, I might as well depart early. Why, I'll keep moving around until I roll my 100 and get born as a perfectly healthy young master of a filthy rich family. Whatever. It's just a matter of luck. What about your family? Rare. You going to abandon them like that? Solus's question made Lith ponder seriously about that matter. Of course not. Making them lose their son, their brother, for no reason, without even giving them a body to bury is too cruel, even for me. I'll stick around until my family needs me before checking out. Solus giggled. Don't you see? Things are not actually all black and white, like you make them out to be. When you awoke in this world, you couldn't wait to die. Too reral, as you say. Then you chose to stay for the magic. Now, you are willing to continue this life for someone else's sake. Give yourself some time. The bad people you met have reinforced your bias on life. But the good people are also slowly changing you. In the beginning, you couldn't care less about Tista's life. Whereas now it's all you think about. You hated both Alina and Raz, even before knowing them. Because of your issues with parental figures. They are not the parents who ruined your life on Earth. And this planet is not Earth. Give it a chance before doing something so extreme. How do I know you are not telling me all this stuff only to keep your host? Lith asked. Wand. Easy peasy. Just read my mind. After checking it thrice, Lith could not find any hidden agenda or egotistical reason. Damn it. All this mind-link stuff is so irritating. I cannot get out of this argument with mistrust or doubts. Rate. It's my loss. For now. Well, at least. You are barely a month old. Life will change you. Well, it always does. Solus giggled again. More? Maybe it will change you. And you will start warming up to me. Then you will have to take care of me for your whole life. Hubby, offby. Lith felt a cold chill run down his spine. Please, don't call me like that. Well, I'm ready to go again. Don't go easy on me. When the... Solus replied, getting on Lith's already shaken nerves. Thanks to all that exercise, Lith would quickly overcome any bottlenecks. And soon he could feel the bottled-up impurities trying to find their way out again. Lith had pondered if it was the case of getting rid of the impurities in the same way he did for the rest of his family. But after discussing it with Solus, he decided against it. The purification treatment he had devised for Tista was an artificial method. Even though it gave the same benefits in terms of physical appearance and resistance to illness, their magic power and physical prowess never got enhanced. Lith had no idea why the impurities had to travel to the mana core before getting expelled. Winds. But it was worth the cost. It happened during one of their sparring sessions. Soon as Lith realized what was happening, he quickly undressed himself to not taint his clothes. This time he offered no resistance, discovering that it wasn't so painful after all. Lith expelled far more impurities than the last time, letting them come out of all his pores and orifices. The stench was so bad that he was about to faint before managing to destroy them with dark magic. He was completely exhausted. This time, not even invigoration could replenish his energies. He needed to sleep. After a bath, I stink so bad I could raise the dead. Solus ignored the obvious remark. It's exactly as you remembered. Whatever happens to you, one, ice like a sword getting tempered and purified. At the same time, both your body and mana core have undergone qualitative changes again. I think your potential skyrocketed. Now you are stronger than my bare minimum requirements. You still need to work hard to develop your skills. Though, wend. So, Lith continued his routine until the day of the Spring Festival came. Chapter 19, The Spring Festival. It was without a doubt the worst day of the year for Lith. He would be forced to spend the full afternoon away from home, surrounded by complete strangers, and robbed of any privacy or personal space during the festivities. All the families in the village would gather for the festival, forgetting about their daily problems and miseries. Everything from decorations to food and drinks was paid for by Count Lark. He would also take part in the festival, to keep his bonds with the community strong and maintain his reputation as a fair lord, instead of just being a faceless guy who collected taxes and made their lives even harder. The festival was comprised of 3 parts. The morning would be spent like normal, with work and chores, to give foreign merchants and carnies the time to prepare their stands and arrange their merchandise. In the evening, the families would gather and check out the stands. People would search for trinkets and jewelry to buy with their extra money, to add them to their daughter's dowry. The food would mainly consist of appetizers, like fresh fruit and vegetables. There would be also skewers of different kinds of meat, and even exotic food. Count Lark always brought saltwater fishes and seafood for the occasion. The only drinks available would be water and light beer. After the sunset, huge braziers and torches would be lit all around the village, while the Count's workers would prepare the stage for the festival main event, the election of the Spring Maiden. All the girls 15 and 16 years old could take part in the Spring Maiden contest, which was more like a debutante ball rather than a beauty pageant. It was the opportunity for the young maidens of marriageable age to show off their beauty and virtues, aimed in the hopes of catching the attention of as many suitors as possible. The judges of the Spring Maiden contest were always the same: Count Lark, the village chief, and Nana. After the election, the real food would be brought out. The banquet had lots of roasted animals, soups, and caramelized fruits. Both pure and watered wines would be available, raising the spirits for the finale. The last part consisted of a ball, encouraging the eligible bachelors to approach one or more maidens that may have caught their eye. Each part would affect Lith's mood differently. The first would cause extreme boredom. tempered by the fact that he was still not allowed to move alone. The second was akin to torture. He would be forced to sit on his father's shoulders for hours, staring at a bunch of little girls he did not give a damn about. The third was the best one, but only because it was very short. After some dancing, his parents were too tired to remain any longer, and would finally bring him back home. None of their children was yet of marrying age, so they had no reason to linger. For the first time in his new life, Lith had some money in his pocket. He could finally check out the carnival games that offered the best prizes. They cheat, eat cheat. Let's play this fair and square, he thought, using spirit magic. He won a beautiful stuffed bear for Tista, beating a ring toss game rigged by unbalanced rings, from a crossbow shoot game. He got a silver-coated hair comb for Rena. All he needed to do was to use 2 strands of spirit magic, one to guide the dart to his target, the second to force it to fall. Last, but not least, a silk ribbon for his mother from a Wheel of Fortune stand. The carnies were flabbergasted, but trying to bully a local child in front of so many villagers, not to mention Count Lark, would have earned them nothing more than the beating of a lifetime and a permanent ban from every event in the county of Lustria. They started to keep an eye on him, but Lith was not greedy and left after getting the 3 prizes. He actually wanted something for Raz too, but all they had were feminine products. The carnies hoped to lure the young boys into wasting their money, trying to impress the girls with expensive presents they could not afford without gambling. After distributing the presents, Lith searched for Nana. He wanted to have a chat about magic with an expert. He found her sitting on a bench near her house. The first thing he did was look at her with life vision. Her mana flow was way bigger than Lith's, but her life force was weaker than Tista's. Nana was an over 60 years old woman, but she looked like an 80-year-old Earth woman. Her back was so hunched that she needed a cane to walk properly. She had sharp grey eyes, a face full of wrinkles, and a big aquiline nose. Nana always wore a shawl over her head, to avoid her long grey hair bothering her during work. At a first look, she seemed an inconspicuous old lady, but when you approached her, you could feel the raw strength exuding from her body. She must have had a rough life. Solus commented. Hello. Nana. How are you? Lith asked. Hello to you, little imp. You sure are going fast, aren't you? Just like Alina had noticed back in winter. Tista and Lith were growing taller and more slender than their peers. The same was happening to Rena too after she had received Lith's treatment. Lith was already over 1.1 meters, 3'7", tall, his shoulders broad like he played water polo. Lith nodded. Yes, I am. Can I ask you a question? As long as it's not about my age, be my guest. Nana laughed. Nana, are you a strong magician? Nana was surprised. It wasn't the question she would expect from a child. Yes, I am. When I was still a young girl, I even got a scholarship for the prestigious Lightning Griffin Academy, and I managed to graduate without a problem. Nana straightened up proudly, remembering her years of glory. Then how did you end up being a healer in Lutia? How tactful of you. Lith. Solus rebuked him. Children are allowed to be rude. It's one of their few privileges. Nana's mood turned gloomy. You see, Lith, in this world there are commoners, nobles, and mages. A strong mage has status on par with the nobles, depending on their magic power. Back then, I was very strong, but not a genius. Sadly. I was also stupid and naive. I made some very bad choices and ended up alone, without anyone backing me. I only had 2 options left, either submit to a powerful noble or live free with the status of a healer. Guess what I picked? Lith became gloomy too. The idea of losing everything after working so hard for it made his future look even scarier. There, kid. Nana brightened up. Let's not spoil the mood and enjoy the festival. After leaving Nana alone, Lith recalled her words about his growth. He stopped in front of a mirror on display to watch his reflection. He could only sigh in resignation. No matter how many impurities I expel. I even managed to fail at the gene pool lottery. I took so much from my dad and so little from my mom. When I look at myself while brooding, rather than cool, I look like some kind of psycho kid escaped from juvie. If I smile, Now that I'm missing so many teeth, I'm not even cute, even all dressed up. I could barely pass for a street urchin from one of Dickens' novels. Solus tried to brighten him up, but to no avail. Later in the evening, Count Lark introduced the village elders to his guest of honor. Chief Urok, Sage Nana, allow me to introduce you to the young Rikatran, son of my dear friend, Baronet Lokar Trohon. This young lad is a really talented mage, who in the future will bring glory to our county. Count Lark was a magic enthusiast, always trying to sponsor promising youths from his land. Nice to meet you, young man. The village chief saluted him with a polite bow, expecting the other to offer him his hand or at least reply to the bow. Rika instead kept looking around, his eyes filled with contempt. The pleasure is mine, he replied with a cold tone. Rika, where are your manners? Count Lark rebuked him mildly. Sage Nana was a powerful and renowned magician in her youth. Feel free to ask her for advice. Her experience could prove invaluable to overcome any difficulty you may encounter during your studies. I have no doubt about that, my lord. Rika bowed this time, but to Count Lark. Nana had seen enough nobles in her life to recognize the type. A high and mighty young master, pampered enough to believe that only nobles could achieve greatness. The people of the village were having a hard time tolerating so much disrespect towards their elders, but for the Count's sake, they limited themselves to angry whispers. Oh, you got yourself another spunky one. Dear Lark. Nana laughed without any warmth. Rika shuddered at such a lack of respect. The old bat calling the Count by his first name without honorifics, but he knew that Lark was a sucker for magicians. And judging from her attitude, he had granted the old bat the right to do so. He has every right to be proud. Dear Nana. Next year he will turn 12 and apply for a Lighting Griffon's Academy scholarship. With a little luck, he will enroll, just like you did back in the day. Rika failed to repress his amazement, knitting his eyebrows at Nana. By the gods, how could such a commoner get admitted into the academy? He thought. She must have cheated her way in. No doubt. Really? Nana replied with exaggerated enthusiasm. Why don't you ask him to show us what he is capable of? Count Lark gladly accepted, per his request. A 1 meter, 3 high stump, with a head of lettuce on its top, was quickly set up. Rika had to stay at least 10 meters, 11 yards away from it, and knock it down. It was a very basic exercise for anyone who wanted to become a magician, often used to quickly get rid of unworthy candidates. Only those with a real talent for magic were able to use core magic from such a range. For normal people, magic had a range of a meter or two. To learn something outside core magic, one had to either enroll in a magic academy or buy very expensive books. Young man, do your best. Count Lark's voice was full of enthusiasm. Rika had done that exercise countless times, but always alone. This time he was surrounded by commoners who clearly hoped to watch him fail and get the chance to ridicule him. Even worse, Count Lark was putting a lot of pressure on him. In Rika's eyes, this wasn't a simple test, but a matter of life and death. Feeling countless eyes on him, he lost his concentration while performing the hand signs and stuttered the magic word. In Firo, he produced a chestnut-big fireball that almost missed the lettuce, yet with a small boom. The head of lettuce was knocked off. No one applauded except for Count Lark. More than one, that's it, could be heard among the crowd. Nana walked slowly to the vegetable, bringing it back for the Count to examine. He messed up a few key hand signs, stuttered the magic word, and missed the lettuce entirely. It only got knocked off because of the explosion. Nana remarked coldly. I would not keep my hopes up. Lark, when I was his age, I was able to actually hit my target without performing signs nor using magic words. They admitted me only because of my perfect silent magic. Nana's grey eyes were staring at Rika in contempt. Well, he is still young. That's why I brought him to you. He has another full year to prepare for the exam. There is still time to fix the small mistakes. I was hoping you could mentor him. I would be glad to. I really would, but between the villagers and my disciple, I already have my hands full. I'm too old to take care of 2 youths, and my apprentice takes precedence, as you know. A mage's word is her bond. You have an apprentice? Count Lark was shocked. No one had informed him about such a critical matter. Yes. She nodded, smiling in Ricker's face. He learned to read and write at the age of 3. And by that time, he had already learned core magic all by himself. Marvelous. Count Lark's excitement was a slap in Ricker's face. Yeah. He is also my disciple. Celia stepped forward, adding fuel to the fire. She and Nana politely detested each other. Yet between her and a stuck-up obnoxious brat, Celia would always choose the devil, she knew. He has hunted in the Trawn Woods from the age of 4, even if he can only hunt blinkers and critters. He would never miss a moving target, let alone some dead-weight lettuce. She then whispered to the Count's ear. He is actually the you-know-who that provided the you-know-what. Fantastic. Excellent. When can I meet him? His monocle jumped out of his eye orbit from happiness. Ricker was on the verge of exploding with anger. Can't he see they are just leading him by the nose? How can someone with such a high social status like the Count trust even one word from these commoners? Lying and cheating is in their nature. They are just trash, trying to drag us to their level to make themselves feel better about their pathetic lives. If that old bat is a mage, then I am the crowned prince. Why do I have to bear listening to her nonsense? And how come even a gut-stinking hunter can freely speak to a Count? This evening could not turn any worse. How the heck did I manage to let my father convince me to come to this pigsty?
Here he is,
Broman shouted triumphantly, forcefully dragging Lith by his arm. Lith had no idea what was happening. He was with his family, nibbling at a caramelized apple, when Broman appeared out of the blue, babbling about the village honor or something. Too many eyes were on him. Lith's intuition told him that something was wrong, so he decided to play it close to the vest. Count Lark, I'm honored to meet you. It didn't take a genius to understand that the overdressed beanpole with the monocle had to be the lord of the land. Lith greeted him, cupping his fist while giving the Count a deep bow. He then proceeded to greet the village chief, Nana, and Celia, making his bow deep according to the respect they deserved. Lastly, he turned towards the ill-looking kid standing next to the Count. He had to be around 10 years old and was 1.4 meters, 4'8" plight tall. He was wearing a silk white shirt over high-end leather pants. His face was all red and sweaty, like he had either run for his life or been bitten by a venomous snake. The situation made no sense to Lith, but since no one seemed worried about the kid's health, Lith did what he was supposed to. Greetings, honorable guest. I hope you enjoy your visit to our village. Lith cupped his fist again, giving Ricker a small bow. He had no idea who that kid was, and Ricker could not find the strength to introduce himself. The Count seemed to have completely forgotten about his existence. Oh. Nana laughed. See. Lark, manners. That's something so many youngsters lack nowadays. Lith kept looking around, waiting for someone to explain what was happening. Can I be of assistance? He asked. Ricker once again needed all his willpower to prevent himself from throwing a fit of rage. Is this guy their prodigy? A toothless bum. I should ask the Count to whip them all to death for their blatant lies. Simply outrageous. Yes. Lith. Celia stepped in again. Count Lark loves magic in all its kinds and forms. I was just telling him about how you kill blinkers without ruining even a feather. Would you mind showing him? She took out a wooden stick, holding it up for the Count and everyone else to see. Lith sighed with relief. All this fuss for core magic. They almost gave me a heart attack. If it's just to entertain some bored nobles, why not? If the village thrives, so will my family. Brezza. After twirling twice his middle and medium fingers, a small vortex enveloped the stick. At first glance, it was just like the ones every housewife used daily to clean their houses. Looking at it closely, however, one could notice that it was actually 2 different vortexes, one spinning clockwise and the other counterclockwise. This way, the spell applied a huge strain to the stick in the point where the 2 vortexes connected, causing it to break almost instantly. Lith had invented it after Celia had started bothering him too much about how he killed the blinkers. He could not show her spirit magic, so he came up with this trick. Ricker wanted to rebut, saying that Lith was standing barely a meter, 1.1 yards away from the stick, But even he knew how hard it was to use two different spells at the same time. He also knew that such an objection would be met by the old bat, requesting him to do the same. And he had no idea how to. Nana waved her hand, and a villager put another head of lettuce on the stump. Lith, be a dear, and knock that out, please. Lith was getting more and more confused. The Count now had stars in his eyes, looking at him like some mythical beast had descended from the heavens, while the noble kid was as pale as a ghost. What the heck is going on here? Why is the Count so engrossed by cheap magic? And why is it that no one cares about that sickly kid? Whatever he has is getting worse. Lith shrugged before flicking his middle finger while saying, Joran! An ice dart hit the lettuce dead center, making it roll a few meters away. Without using hand signs, the Count gasped, his voice so faint that Lith could not hear him. One last thing, dear Lith. If you manage to indulge this poor old lady, I will treat you and all your family for free until you start your apprenticeship. Are you willing to humor me one last time? Lith had no need to think before accepting. Despite his best efforts, Taster still needed constant care. From time to time they still had to seek Nana for help, and it wasn't cheap. Nana smiled, full of confidence enough for both of them. Broman. Toss one of those as high as you can. Broman threw a head of lettuce with a lob shot, sending it about 3 meters, 10 ikai high. When it reached its peak, Nana made a simple gesture, cutting the air horizontally with her extended hand and fingers. Conjuring 10 ice darts, 5 struck its left side and 5 on the right side. When the head of lettuce started to fall, Nana cut the air again, this time vertically, splitting it evenly into 4 parts. Then she simply opened her palm toward the sky, conjuring 4 small vortexes that brought down the 4 pieces slowly. Damn. Not only is Nana's mana flow still superior to mine, but her skill level is above and beyond my expectations. I could probably achieve the same result, but I'd need both hands and something more than just a casual wave of the hand. Now I understand why everyone in the village holds her in such high regard. She is likely to be the reason why the village of Lutia is so peaceful. If she can do so much with simple chore magic, I can't imagine what she can do with a real spell, Lith thought. Now is your turn. Bro man. Another head of lettuce. Another lob shot. Lith knew it wasn't a contest. He wasn't supposed to perform as good as Nana, until Lith could get a clear picture of how much talent was considered good, how much to be considered a genius level, and how much for the burn that monster label. He had to play it safe. When the shot reached its peak, Lith made hand signs with both hands shouting, Joran. Conjuring 4 ice darts, 2 per side. When the lettuce started to fall, he used Bretza to cut it unevenly in half, using Bretza again to summon 2 vortexes to bring the pieces down. Once again, they were rotating in opposite directions. The slowly spinning lettuce highlighted the phenomenon. In for a penny, in for a pound. They already know I can do it. If I have to entertain the Count, I might as well do it with a little swag, Lith thought. The crowd exploded into applause, soon joined by an ecstatic Count Lark, who still could not believe his own eyes. Nana sent Lith away to his parents, reassuring him that she would keep her side of the bargain, before speaking to Rickatrain again. And that, young man, is what real talent for magic looks like. Ricka could not hear her, though. Back when Nana had shown her skill, he had fainted standing up. His mind could not accept that all the certainties he had grown up with had proven to be nothing more than convenient lies. Chapter 20. Ambush. After the end of the Spring Festival, nothing major happened, and Lith's life returned to his usual routine. Solus proved to be of invaluable help for Lith's magical training. Despite having lost all of her past knowledge and being quite naive in the ways of life, she was by far the brighter of the two. Solus was not limited to the human's 5 senses, but actually had 12. Solus was certain that by regaining her powers, she would be able to awaken even more. Solus's sense of mana helped Lith to better understand the laws of magic that determined innate talent, the mana capacity. Her mana sense was similar to Lith's life vision, only more precise and accurate. Solus could actually see the mana flowing from blades of grass and even pebbles. When looking at someone, she was immediately able to grasp their magic talent. Even more important, she was able to use her mana sense on Lith's memories. According to Solus, all the information needed to use mana sense was also contained in the visible spectrum, but humans lacked the means to interpret them. When you were on Earth, you had no mana core. Your native world had no mana at all. The same thing happened on the alien spaceship. But when you were born here, you started with a very small blood-red mana core. By absorbing and processing the world energy with your breathing technique, you managed to develop it from red to orange. 4 years of unrelenting practice, just to promote it to the next rank. Lith was quite depressed by the news. Not quite. Your mana core also keeps changing and developing as you grow up, and this happens to everyone else too. At the moment of your birth, Tista's mana core was already field poppy red and turned brighter every year. Right now it's light orange, and it would not surprise me if after her final growth spurt it turned yellow or even green. She seems to be fairly talented in magic, Solus said. And where does that leave me? Lith kept feeling worse about himself. Am I really a complete failure in everything? Looks, talent, can't I do one thing right? Lith thought. Stop moping around and listen to me. You keep forgetting that you are 2 years younger, and I have no idea if males and females develop their mana cores at different rates. Also, the constant use of accumulation makes it hard for me to understand how good your base talent is. After every cycle of expansion and compression, your mana core would turn one shade brighter. Every time you expel impurities from your mana core, it skips to the next level. Right now, it's deep green, Solus said. Is it just me, or does the mana core strength seem to be somehow related to the light spectrum? Lith pondered. A prism can break down white light in its basic components: red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, purple. Agreed. Solus' mind nodded. But it could also somehow be related to fire. Flames follow the same principle. A yellow star is colder than a green one, and so on. Or real question is the final step for a mana core to turn purple or white? Lith shook his head. I'm starting to get a splitting headache. We'll face this as I did for college back on Earth. One exam session at a time. Even back then, if I started to think about all the exams that I had to pass to get my degree, only to start right back for my master's. The memory made him shudder. Let's focus on the present. I'm deep green. What about Nana? She is the only person with a light cyan mana core. To be born with such a talent, she is really impressive. Is there anyone else talented in the village? Lith had to be aware of the possible competition. No. The ill kid Count Lark brought along had a bright yellow mana core, but I don't think he lives close by. Lith sighed. All that information was quite overwhelming for him. For so many years, he had deluded himself into thinking that he was special, stronger than anyone else. Now he felt like the proverbial frog in the well, finally discovering the vastness of the sea. Enough moping around, let's roll up our sleeves and work hard. Nothing that's worth having comes easy. Lith and Solus kept practicing together for the whole year, growing closer and closer like fraternal twins. Lith's birthday was in the fall, but all major activities in the village would be suspended until the next spring. Since Nana's offer was to replace the 2 years of public schooling with an apprenticeship, Lith had to wait until spring to begin his magical education. In late winter, the weather cleared, and the trades between the village and the farmhouses became more and more frequent. Thanks to this, Nana was able to let Lith know the date she had set for the start of his apprenticeship. She had entrusted the message to one of his neighbors that had come to her to heal a nasty wound suffered while repairing the roof. When the day came, Lith woke up early, determined to keep his routine of cleaning both his house and celliers before going to the village. The huntress had done so much for him that Lith considered her as an aunt, a stingy nagging aunt who would make rip-off deals, but an aunt nonetheless. That morning the house was in turmoil. All his loved ones were so excited at the idea of having a future mage in the family that they could barely eat their breakfast. They would rather spend all their time and energy giving him unwanted and obvious advice. Don't be late. It's better to be a little early rather than to show up late, Raz said. Be obedient and respectful. Nana is giving you a great chance, Elena said. The reason everyone was so on edge was that they considered the first day to be of vital importance, and Lith had to go to the village alone. The house was in dire need of repairs. With Orpal gone, they needed all hands on deck to take care of the fields and animals. Lith didn't mind it at all. It was just a 30-minute walk that he had done countless times. Raz and Elena, though, felt like they were abandoning their child in his hour of need. Lith rushed out of his house to escape from their barrage of worries. He was very calm about the apprenticeship. It wasn't his first rodeo, Yet they had managed to make him nervous like a teenager, waiting for his first date. After finishing the chores at Celia's house and collecting his usual payment, Lith restlessly looked at the sun. Damn it, it's still barely dawn. Here I was, shuddering in fear. I still have a lot of time. Lith walked briskly toward the village, hoping that by the time he arrived, Nana would at least already be awake. Arriving so early to give her the wake-up call would have been quite embarrassing. When he had made it about halfway down the road, Lith noticed something odd. There was a horseman standing on the side of the road. It was already unusual, finding a stranger so early in the morning, but what really alarmed him was that the man wasn't moving. Whoever he was clearly on patrol. Soon as the horseman noticed Lith, he took out a silvery whistle from under his shirt and blew into it, emitting a high-pitched noise. Lith kept moving forward, but slowly, ready to react at any moment. Soon the scout was joined by 4 other horsemen, and they started trotting toward Lith in an arrowhead formation. Lith stopped moving. He had many spells at the ready. "Kid, are you Lith?" "Son of Raz and Alina?" said the horseman on point. He was a middle-aged man, with brown hair and eyes. He had a perfectly trimmed mustache, and everything from his straight posture to his commanding tone identified him as a military commander of some sort. Lith looked carefully and noticed that all the horsemen had the same vibe, marching perfectly aligned. Yet, they were wearing casual clothes. White shirts over leather hunting pants. Isn't it a little early to go out without the matching leather jacket? Lith thought, unless they need to avoid showing any household insignia. "Who are you, mister?" "My mother always tells me that I am not supposed to talk to strangers." Lith decided to stall for time while he and Solus checked their surroundings for lookouts or possible reinforcements still in hiding. "I perceive only 5 human males with above-average physical strength and deep red mana cores," Solus reported. It was the same thing Lith had determined using life vision, but 4 eyes were better than 2. "I asked the questions, kid. Are you the Lith that is supposed to start his apprenticeship today?" Lith grimaced. "Whoever sent this hired muscle knows way too much about me," Lith thought. "I am," Lith retorted fiercely. "And it's none of your business. I'm here to give you a bit of friendly advice, son. Today you are feeling very ill, and it's best for you to go back home and stay in bed all day." Lith's anger started to grow, and he didn't care about hiding it. "I'm feeling perfectly fine, thank you. Now scram." The 5 men lowered their hands to their weapons hanging from their belts, the reins held tightly ready to charge. "Last chance, kid. Turn back now. I know you have such a pretty house and such a beautiful mom. Not to mention 2 gorgeous sisters ripe for the taking. It would be really sad if something bad happened to them." Lith released such a powerful killing intent aura that the horses took a step back. His mana and hatred seethed together, generating the equivalent of an aura of fear. The hair on the back of the riders' necks suddenly stood up. "I wanted to play this nice and slow, but I just changed my mind." With a sweep of his right hand, 5 wind blades struck the horses' legs, making them whine in pain and collapse on their sides. "Now you cannot retreat anymore." The man with the mustache and his right-hand man managed to dismount with a roll, avoiding getting crushed by the falling horse. The other 3 weren't so skilled. "Kill him. Crab. Crab. Go. Teal." Lith's voice was cold. His words fell on the 2 men like boulders, making them instantly fall on their knees. Lith's spirit magic was stronger than ever, and he wasn't holding back even one bit. "What the heck?" "Sarge, I can't get up," screamed the right-hand man, struggling on the ground. "I never allowed you to talk or to look at me. I said kneel." Another wave, even stronger than the previous one, pushed their heads toward the ground. Despite dropping their weapons to absorb the impact with their hands, they still hit the ground so hard that they started to bleed. "Much better. Now let me dispose of the garbage before resuming our talk." Lith walked over to the closest horseman. He was still under his horse. His leg was stuck and broken, making him scream and wince in pain. With a wave of his hand, Lith turned his head 180 degrees. The rider's neck snapped like a dry log, tossed into the fire. "Stay away. Stay away from me, monster," screamed the next in line, crying in desperation. "Am I a monster? Was it not you who was ready to burn a house full of innocents, violate a child barely 8 years old?" Without waiting for his reply, Lith clenched his fist, distorting the man's head before making it implode like a walnut. "Please. It's not my fault. Have mercy. I was just following orders," said a blonde, handsome youth trying to free his trapped leg. "Just following orders? I could lecture you about the many atrocities that men like you did with such an excuse. But you see, I'm just the same. I'm just following orders too. Mine, to be precise. A firebolt struck both horse and rider, turning them into a pyre that screamed in agony. Lith returned to the kneeling men. They were still struggling to escape his control, their faces pale as ghosts, gritting their teeth while exerting every ounce of their strength. I'm sorry, Lith said with a cherubic smile while letting them raise their heads. But my puppet master spell isn't so simple. It takes more than a touch of strength and a spoonful of wishful thinking to escape from it. The two men wanted to beg for mercy, but their mouths refused to open. It was like their teeth were fused to each other. Now I have good news and bad news. The bad news is that I don't need both of you. Between the pack leader and a lackey, the choice is obvious. The good news is that I allow you to speak. Any last words? Please, don't. I just married. I needed the prize money from my lord. My wife is expecting a child. I could not afford to lose my position. Lith emitted a cruel, joyless laugh. We'll have to agree to disagree. You say wife, yet all I can hear is a widow. Lith put his left hand on the man's head, turning it into a block of ice. It fell to the ground, shattering into countless shards of bone, skin, and brain matter. The man with the moustache started to puke uncontrollably, but his mouth was still shut tight. Some barf managed to escape from his nose. The rest he was forced to gulp down over and over, to avoid choking. Lith raised his right hand, making the man with the moustache float in midair upside down, so that he could look him straight in the eyes. Now, you have only two choices. You can tell me what I want, and die without suffering too much. You can keep resisting, suffering through unimaginable pain and agony before telling me what I want to know. You have free will, after all.